Alright, one final thing I wanted to say about these. I just wanted to point out the penalties that are spelled out in each of the oaths that were listed. In each oath, you can see what should happen to you if you were to open your mouth and tell anyone about the secrets of Masonry. I've even asked Masons about particular things that go on in these meetings, and it seems like every single time you just can't get them to say anything about it. I wonder if they really believe that these things will actually happen to them. I don't know, and part of me wants to say I doubt it, but it isn't that crazy of a thing to think they could believe it. And that's going to lead me into my next section, where I'm going to talk about what's called the William Morgan affair. And I want to go back to one of my quotes. The oath from a Master Mason and the quotes from the first initiation of a wannabe Freemason were taken from a book called The Illustrations of Masonry. And it was written by a man named William Morgan, Captain William Morgan. He was a Mason for, from what I understand, upwards to 20 or so years, if not more. And he, for one reason or another, decided to exit the fraternity, and he wrote the book called Illustrations of Freemasonry. And I want to talk a little bit about what happened with him, but I'm going to go back to a particular book. This is by the guy named Edmund Ronayne, and he wrote in a book called Masonic Handbook. And I've already used this quote, but it was talking about, I used it when it was talking about the name of Christ, and it said that, whenever a minister prays in the name of Christ, you must be ready, if called upon, to cut his throat from ear to ear, pull out of his tongue by the roots, and bury his body at the bottom of some lake or pond. And all of this is in accordance to, the oath of a Master Mason. The oath of the entered apprentice. It says, no less penalty than having my throat cut from ear to ear, my tongue torn out by its roots and buried in the sands of the sea. I'm reading actually from the oath of the entered apprentice, and you can see that this is somewhere Edmund Ronayne went to when he was writing the Masonic Handbook. This is where he got that at. And the part that I want to focus on this is where it says, of course, all this must be done in secret, as it was in the case of that notorious man Morgan. And that's how I want to get into the case of William Morgan. Let's see, in 1826, Captain William Morgan of Batavia, New York, wrote and printed a book entitled Illustrations of Freemasonry by one of the fraternity who has devoted 30 years to the subject. Okay, so he had spent 30 years in Freemasonry. Morgan, it appears, was a Royal Archmason, and when the fact became known that he was preparing a work to reveal the secrets of Masonry, many of the Masonic fraternity became much excited and appeared determined to put an end to his disclosures. A Royal Arch chapter was installed at Lewiston. 20 or 30 persons came to the fort from Lewiston. About midnight, 7 people, stated to be Royal Archmasons, held a consultation on the plain near the graveyard as to the manner in which Morgan should be disposed of. The prevailing opinion among them appeared to be that Morgan had forfeited his life for a breach of his Masonic obligations, and they ought to see the penalty executed by drowning him in the river. And that's from Historical Collections of the State of New York. On October the 7th, 1827, a body was found on the beach of Lake Ontario. A coroner's inquest was held on October the 17th of the same year. The report states that beyond any shadow of a doubt, the body was that of Captain William Morgan. it further states that he came to his death by suffocation by drowning. In 1882, a large monument to Morgan was placed in the Batavia City Cemetery. It reads, "Sacred to the memory of William Morgan, a native of Virginia, captain of the War of 1812, a respectable citizen of Batavia, and a martyr to the freedom of writing, printing, and speaking the truth." And I believe I've got all that written down over here. This is a picture of the monument, and I got this. I actually got permission by David Padfield from this particular website, padfield.com, to use this. And I'm going to read the inscription, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I know about it. From what I understand, he was arrested for something. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I believe it was probably some kind of trumped-up charge or something like that. But I believe he was either bailed out or let out for one reason or another. And when he was let out, that is when he was abducted. He was taken to somewhere where he pled for his life. He used his family. He had children to his captors in an attempt to convince them or persuade them not to take his life, because I believe at that point it was I think he was aware of what exactly was going on. And anyway, he was found in I think in the Niagara River or somewhere thereabouts. And they said that on some of the captors and the murderers' deathbeds, they confessed to killing Captain Morgan, and it was all related to his book about the revealing of the Masonic secrets, or the secrets of the Masonic order. And here is what the monument says, and I believe I actually had this a couple of slides earlier, but it says he was abducted from near the spot in the year 1826 by Freemasons and murdered for revealing the secrets of their order. The court records of Genesee County and the files of Batavia Advocate kept in the recorder's office contain the history of the events that caused the erection of this monument. Just one final thing that I'm going to say about that. I spent some time looking at some of the Masonic sites, that talk about this or spoke about the Morgan incident, and they all tend to treat this thing as some sort of a joke. Some sites said that there was no evidence that the man even died. Some even suggested that he could have moved to England and faked his death in order to sell more books. And I just want to point out that, other than the fact that it's recorded in the historical collections of the state of New York, the man had a family, and I doubt that he would have, left them all behind so that he could sell books about the Masonic order. But anyway, that's enough on that. The whole point I'm trying to make here is I'm not trying to make Masons out to be, murdering whatever. But I'm just trying to say that, when you become a Mason and you go through the Masonic order and all of these, you say these oaths, whether you mean them or not, I don't understand the reason to continue to say them, or to say them if you don't mean them. I took an oath as an officer of the law, and I said what I meant and meant what I said. I took an oath as a member of the U.S. military. I said what I meant and I meant what I said. Why would you make an oath as a Mason, completely and totally just as part of the ritual, and then say that you don't mean it, when it's clear that people in other places have taken this oath very serious? To get back on track, I'm going to talk about Hiram Abiff. I believe that's how you pronounce it. In the initiation of the third degree of Freemasonry, one goes through a ritual dealing with Hiram Abiff. And from what I've been able to gather, Hiram Abiff was one of the workers at Solomon's temple. I believe the Masons believe him to be in this verse in 1 Kings 7. And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. He was filled with wisdom and understanding, and cunning to work all works in brass. I want to make a point that I didn't write down, and I didn't make mention of in this series. But it says that he was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali. And it's interesting that the Masons' sign of distress is to put their hands in the air and say, "O Lord my God, is there no help for the widow's son?" But anyway, I believe this is where they're getting Hiram Abiff. But this is something from the Kentucky Monitor, I believe it is. It says, all antiquity solved the enigma of the existence of evil by supposing the existence of a principle of evil, of demons, fallen angels, Ahriman. These are all names, basically, of the evil, of an evil one. It's got Satan, that first falling themselves and plunged into misery and darkness, tempted man to his fall and brought sin into the world. All believed in a future life to be attained by purification and trial. Okay, I'm going to skip down to the bottom. It says they all believe in a mediator or redeemer by whom the evil principle was to be overcome and the supreme deity reconciled to his creatures. The belief was general that he was to be born of a virgin and suffer a painful death. I believe this is supposed to be Hindus, called him Krishna. The Chinese, I'm not even going to try to pronounce some of these. The Egyptians, Horus, Plato, and Love. The Scandinavians, Balder. The Christians, Jesus, and Masons, Hiram. Basically, that's what they're saying is that this deity, supreme deity, or mediator or redeemer, is known as this to all these people, is known as Jesus to the Christians, and finally Hiram to the Masons.